We can see you, we can hear you.
Yeah, now we're
Okay.
good.
Yeah, perfect. Okay, so I want
Can you-
to, Matti, I'm going to introduce you properly. So to give you the Hakara Satov that you deserve. And thank you so much, because I know that you get your kids off to school and you agree to do this. So the kids that are home that your husband can watch. So thank you, Matti, for doing this for us.
Thank
And
you for having me.
thank you. And I want to introduce you properly. Matti Blackman is a dynamic teacher who is passionate about inspiring her students and audiences about the beauty of Jewish life and practice. She has taught adults and high school students from New York to Kiev to Jerusalem and Canada. Someone just wrote, Matti is a rock star. Matti has a master's degree in Jewish education and administration from Yeshiva University's Azrieli Graduate School. She is currently the campus rebbitzin for Esha Torah and Olami Toronto and teaches Judaic studies, including Tanakh and Rabbinics, and runs the NCSY Jewish Student Union Club at Tannenbaum Chat. Matti is an ambassador for and kala teacher for My Gift of Mikvah. She offers coaching to people facing personal and spiritual struggles. She is a licensed massage therapist, a certified aerobics instructor, and most importantly, mother of 6 delicious children. I don't know what to say. Wow. Thank you, Matti. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Naomi. Can you hear me okay?
Perfect.
Okay, perfect. Thank you. Thank you, Naomi, for organizing this incredible initiative with these women, all of you women coming together. Such holy and motivated women. I'm hearing your tefillos and the tehillim, and so heartfelt is so early in the morning. Maybe for some of you, not so early in the morning, but whatever time it is, just the fact that you wake up early to connect and come together is such a special schus. And I want to say thank you, Hashem, for allowing us to come together from all parts of the world. This miracle of Zoom. I was on another Zoom last week with somebody from Eretz Yisrael, Miriam Goldberg, and she said something. I told her I wanted to borrow it from her. All of you women are obviously the Nashim Tzidkanios, and the ones with your cameras on are the Nashim Tzidkanios Glios, and the ones with your cameras off are the Nashim Tzidkanios Nistaros. But I want all of you to become, I would love if you could turn on your cameras, because it doesn't matter if you're in your pajamas or you didn't put on makeup. I did just because I was trying to look nice for this, but you are all holy, beautiful women. And if it helps us feel more connected when we could like feel each other's energy and power, it gives us unity in our strength. And when we're able to see who we are together, thank you so much for turning on your cameras, getting to see the faces to the names. It really makes a difference. So I really appreciate it. Okay. Wow. So I'll tell you, Naomi, I was sure that this was going to be canceled because Mashiach was going to be here by now. And it would be, it's 100 days. And they're doing all these different things around the world today. It's 100 days. It's the yard side of the Baba Sali, like somebody was reminding us over here as well. And I was hoping we'd all be in Eretz Yisrael. And there's something magical about these 3 digits that I was just sure, by 50 days, I think that was when a lot, like we started having the hostages released, and I thought another 50 days and it's going to continue. But here we are, and it's 100 days. They send out these little recaps, and it's almost hard to process, but I'm going to share it with you, and I'll tell you why. Well, maybe I'm first going to just ask a couple questions so we can get some. Maybe you can raise your virtual hand or your actual hand, because I just like to see that this is relevant to you, and maybe that we're touching on some things that actually are meaningful. Raise your virtual hand or your actual hand, whichever you prefer, if you've experienced any of this, okay? Does anybody remember how we felt 3 months ago or 100 days ago, waking up the morning after Simchas Torah, and probably multiple mornings after this, and hearing about more of the atrocities that happened in Simchas Torah, and just pinching ourselves, praying that it was an awful nightmare, and soon we were going to wake up and life would be normal again, and all of this would just be like a bad dream. Thank you. See, we have some hands here, because yeah, this is so I'm not alone. Okay, you can put your hands down. I'll ask you another question. Did anyone experience this intense desire just to jump on a plane and go and help out in any way possible, and confident that we could make the difference right away. We were so impassioned. We were going to free the hostages and heal the sick. We were going to daven more. We were going to do more chesed. We become better people, right? Anybody experience that? Yeah. We wanted to be the change. Did anyone else find themselves, okay, you could put your hand down for now. I'm going to ask you another question. Did anyone find themselves spending too much time glued to the news only after to have decided consciously or unconsciously, I can't read the news anymore. It's too much. I just can't, only to find themselves stuck again, glued to the news, hoping that today was going to be different and something different was going to happen today. Yes? Thank you. Yeah. Has anyone here been davening or learning as a schos for Eretz Yisrael, but at the same time, consciously or unconsciously, finding themselves mentally or emotionally dissociating or feeling numb from everything going on, that it felt impossible to maintain that level of emotional intensity, and just got busy with our usual lives to cope as normal human beings, having to almost cut off a part of us that feels, to put up layers to protect ourselves, or just to get busy to function as normal human beings, right? Yes, thank you. Does anyone feel like this has been going on forever to the point that it's hard to feel anymore? So we say our Tehillim and we do our part and we do the chesed that we're involved in, and we move on, right? And thank you for everybody who raised your hand, because I know that then I'm not alone and it doesn't feel good, but I'm certainly not here to tell you that you should continue going on the news and continue scrolling and following every detail. That's not what I'm here to tell you. No, we know enough already. But what more can we do? We're doing so much. I'm preaching to the choir. These are the women who are waking up early in the morning to daven together, right? And by the way, everything that I'm saying is what I need to hear. I'm totally guilty of all these things myself, because it's too hard. But at some point, we have to figure out how to function in this dysfunction. And anyone who knows me well, I'd like to think that I'm usually a very positive person and I only like to focus on the positive, but there's a point that we also just have to be real. And there's something when maybe in Eretz Yisrael it's different, but over here there is a point. I don't know if the majority of women here are in Eretz Yisrael or outside of Eretz Yisrael, Chutz La'aretz. I don't know, maybe Naomi, you know?
It's both,
I don't know
but a
if
lot in Chutz La'aretz. It's a lot, yeah.
Okay, so I think when you're not in Israel and you don't really feel that it's wartime as much, you just kind of like, kind of, we say our Tehillim, we go on, right? But during wartime, when you're in Israel and you're feeling it so closely, right? We don't go back to renovating our houses, right? Or what clothing we're gonna, like, figuring out what we're gonna wear, or if we're gonna go out to a restaurant, which one, right? Like, all you care about when it's a wartime, I don't know if, or maybe I'm just imagining the best, like, you just want to have a roof over your head and clothing to cover your body and food to eat, right? And so I think we have to ask ourselves, what does Hashem want from us during this time? What's the Torah response? And I'm speaking to our women who are already doing so much. What's our job right now? What more is there to do? So I first want to share a story from Reb Chaim Shmulevitz, was the legendary Rosh Yeshiva of the Mir Yeshiva in Yerushalayim. He was well known for his sensitivity to the suffering of others and his incredible empathy for others. I heard a story from Rabbi Pesach Kron, who was describing the following scene during the 1976 Entebbe hostage crisis. This is not the first time that we've had hostages taken, unfortunately. And these Jews were on their way from, I believe, Eretz Yisrael to France, and a bunch of Peloton. We didn't have the same kind of security that we did back then. You probably know the story, so I'm not going to go into all the details. But they were rerouted to Uganda, to this raving lunatic.
Matti, we lost you. Matti? Is it just me?
We can hear
No,
her.
we can't hear her.
No, it's all of us.
Okay, Matti, we
And-
lost you. Matti, we lost you. She can't hear us either.
So
Okay,
she'll
give me a-
realize she got disconnected and she'll
Okay.
sign back in.
I think she completely got disconnected. Do you see? I think she got pushed off. Okay, she'll come back on.
Is this better now? Is this better?
Yeah, so we lost you, Matti, when you said they were directed towards Uganda.
Oh, okay, thank you. And in Eretz Israel, they knew that there was this crazy man who could do anything. He had was a lunatic who had no problem killing any amount of Jews, and they called in Atzeres Tefillah in Eretz Israel. And they gathered a huge crowd all over by the Kosel, and in the Mir Yeshiva, they filled up the room until there was no more room. And the Rosh Yeshiva walks in, and he composed himself enough to walk in front of the base medrash and to speak to the yeshiva students. But through his muffled sobs, the Rosh Yeshiva managed to force out only one sentence in a barely audible voice with choked pain. And with all these hundreds of people waiting for him to say, what's he going to say? How will he comfort us? What will inspire us? And he said one sentence. And his one sentence was, imagine how you would be saying Tehillim if it were your mother or father, your sister or brother who was there. Clearly, Rav Chaim Shmulevitz was urging his students to visualize the suffering of the hostages as if they were personally victimized, to ensure that their tefillos would arise from the depths of their soul. Right now, so many years later, we know the rest of their story, how their tefillos were answered when nearly all the hostages were rescued alive in a miraculous and daring raid by the courageous Chayalim. But when we visualize our fellow Jews' pain, and we then channel our shared anguish into our heartfelt tefillah on his or her behalf, the opportunity for salvation are endless. It changes how we experience the news we hear, right? It's not just numbers, and it's easy to get numbed by the numbers. And I for a moment, if it's okay with your permission, I would like to share, and I've seen these recaps of what's going on, what are we up to? It's been 100 days. We have had 1,395 Israelis killed, 188 soldiers killed in the ground operations, 136 hostages remain in Gaza, 121 hostages were freed, Baruch Hashem, thank you Hashem. 126,000 people were displaced from their homes and replaced into all different kinds of places. 206,080 people are unemployed. 22,000 targets were hit in Gaza. 8,000 plus terrorists were killed. 10,874 sirens have gone off in Israel. 10,874 sirens. That means the regular people who are living in near Sderot or Ashdod or the places that are not directly under regular attack are getting picked up, woken up in the middle of the night. Pregnant women, people on medication, on sleeping medication, babies who are sleeping, and people who are not in a position just to run down the steps, having to replace themselves in bomb shelters. And I'm not saying this to be depressing. I'm quite the contrary. I think it's so important for us, even though we've had to come to a place where we have to create spaces in our day, in our life. And I do think it is healthy. We can't always go around feeling depressed, feeling sad, feeling anxious, feeling stressed. But we can create a space in our heart, a place inside of us that can still feel the suffering, that can still feel what we need to feel as if these were our brothers and sisters. And I've shared this before, but I was looking at the pictures of some of the hostages, and it made me think. And I imagined, what would it be like if I could hear the tefillos, or what would it be like in emotional experience of the Jewish women in Israel right now? Imagine what their tefillah would sound like. Think of the tefillah of hundreds or thousands of people who had to pick up from their comfort of at home. Hashem, please help all my children find their place in this new yeshiva and community so that they can learn until we can go home. Please help me find a new parnasa so I can buy shoes for my son who couldn't find them in our rush to leave. Please give me the strength to care for our big family so I won't be on my own. So I can manage on my own while my husband is at war. There are so many tremendous Nishei Chayil who are holding down the fort while their husbands are out. Please bring back my husband safely so I won't be raising all our children alone. Think of the tefillah of the Bachar who's sitting and learning. Dear Tati and Shamayim, it's hard for me to sit and learn so much, but I'm learning with all my heart because I know that more than ever, my tefillos and learning are holding up the world. It's hard to look. It's hard to, but I took on to learn through my lunch seder and not to go home as a schus for their protection. Think of the tefillah of the wives of the Mada medics whose husbands were taken as they were caring for the wounded patient just a few days ago. Hashem, I don't understand your ways, but I trust that you have a plan for our family as we start over on my own. Think of those who have a child, a sibling, a parent who are being held hostage right now. Hashem, please make these Hamas terrorists compassionate on my child. Please help them, give them food to eat. The tefillah of the woman in her 9th month begging Hashem, please keep my husband alive in Gaza so we can meet our child that we waited 14 years to have. Hashem, please bring back my sister, Eden. I promise not to fight with her ever again. I only will love her. Picture yourself being in an unshowered long skirt in a cement miklat for 6.5 hours, waiting for the sirens to finish and just to use the bathroom in privacy. Right? Hashem, bring back my daughter so she can marry her chassan and bring back generations of tzaddikim to this world. The soldiers are begging to us for daven. I just had a guy at our house this Shabbos, was actually just here this morning until a couple of minutes ago, from Israel, Daniel Tamir. He's a basketball player. Maybe you know him. He's like 6'11", and he came here to speak to the students. And he was just with the hostages last week or 2 weeks ago in Israel, and he was telling over the story of meeting the survivors of the Nova Festival and the hostage families. And he was telling us how the soldiers were telling them about coming they were on the battlefront, and they were being on October 7th. They were being given orders, and they didn't have time to prepare. There was no preparation. They were all just trying to do whatever they could on the fly as they arrived. And they were being told, if you know how to fight people, if you're ready to go in combat, go fight the people. If you don't know how to, if you don't know how to fight, just go take care of the families over there and just protect them. And if you know how to pray, just go in the field and pray and daven. And all the soldiers on October 7th cried out to Hashem, Shema Yisrael, Hashem Elokeinu, Hashem Echad, even if that was the only sentence they ever knew. And they all called out, right? Imagine what the hostages themselves, what their tefillah would sound like. Hashem, please forgive me for not eating kosher. There's nothing else to eat. I only have this one morsel to stay alive. As soon as I'm out of here, I promise to only keep kosher all my life. Right? I'm sure if the hostages had any communication with this group of women right here, you would hear them please scream, please don't forget to pray for me. My family wants me home too. My children need me to do homework with them, to be there to support them. We've lost our home. Right? We have this overwhelming, there's this overwhelming unity that's going on in Eretz Yisrael, the likes that we've never seen before, that we've come together in such a powerful way. And it's so palpable. And it's unfortunate that it took the war to bring us together, but maybe this is what we needed. You know, if you think about in history, what was one of our greatest moments in Jewish history? What was the secret to our survival? What would you say was one of our greatest moments in Jewish history?
Your hat's here. Please bring it downstairs.
What would you say is one of our greatest moments in
Sinai,
Jewish
when we
history?
were Ish Echad B'Lev Echad, right?
Exactly. So thank you, Adi. I recognize your voice, but I don't see you. When we were by Matan Torah, right? It says in Lashon Yachid, it says Vayichan Sham Yisrael Neged Ahar. It was our greatest moment. We were like one man with one heart. It was through this power, this tremendous power of unity. It was a time in history when we fused, we became one. We didn't care if we were wearing different clothing, or even if we spoke a different language. We didn't even care if we had different hashkafos and how to be close to Hashem. If we went to different shuls, we were one. We were with ourselves, with Hashem, and with the entire Jewish nation. And this achdus in oneness, it's an emotion. It's deeper than an emotion, right? Emotions are temporary, and they don't last. And which is why, unless we tie them to something very tangible and something very concrete, that it's not possible for them to last. How did we get to that place of such unity? How did we get to it now? And how did we get to it then? When Hillel was asked, tell me the whole Torah on one foot, right? There was a Jew who wanted to convert to Judaism. And what was he told? He said, tell me the whole Torah on one foot, or maybe even right on one hand, right? What is he said? What is hateful to you, don't do to your neighbor, right? The rest is the explanation of this. Go and study of this, right? And there's this love. There's this love both for each other, right? L'reacha, that we're seeing, that we're beginning to feel. There's this love for Hashem that we have to see that Hashem is also in so much pain, right? Sometimes the father has to take care of his children and do things that are very painful, but the father is in the most pain of all. And we have to realize that Hashem's Shechina is in so much galus to be able to have to put us through this pain. Hashem doesn't want to do this. And us too, we have to be shalom with ourselves and realize that the kamocha, there has to be this sense of self, of recognition that I am a piece of Hashem. I am this holy, pure soul that God put inside of me, this Elokai neshama shenatata bi tohorahi, right? Like that song that the Bachar boy who was singing on his way, and we have the videos seeing him singing those words on his last day of his life, right? Elokai neshama shenatata bi tohorahi. We have this pure soul, and when we recognize that we're part of this pure soul, we actually come to a place of recognizing that's the soul part of me. That's who I am. That's my essence. And when we recognize that that's who I am, we also recognize this in everybody in the world around us. And when we recognize this in everyone in the world around us, we see that we're all really part of this one soul. We're really all part of this one neshama, right? That's all a piece of Hashem, right? And so I wanted to touch on this midah of nosei ba'olam chavero, holding and creating space for the burden of our brothers and sisters. It has such a big importance because the overarching goal of the entire Torah, so said by Rabbi Yerucham Levav, it says that both the study of the Torah and the performance of its mitzvot is uniting our souls such that we feel each other's pain or happiness, that we literally become one. This is the foundation of the entire Torah. And he says, in another place, Chazal called this midah nosei ba'olam chavero, which means that we have to sense and feel another's pain, another's yoke, another burden. Moreover, all the mitzvahs of the Torah are subsumed under this mitzvah, the imperative of nosei ba'olam chavero, because this mitzvah is the foundation of the Torah and the foundation for the mitzvahs. Authentically sharing in another person's distress promotes a powerful kinship between fellow Jews, reinforcing our status as a nefesh achas. Our enhanced status, ki'ish achad b'lev achad, therefore enables us to merit siyata dishmaya, divine assistance to learn and understand the Torah. Rav Matisyahu Salomon, Zechrono Levracha, who just passed away this week, said a person who is nosei ba'olam chavero will feel a keen concern for the spiritual welfare of his brethren and will share his Torah with them to improve their lot. And thus there is no one more worthy of receiving Torah from Hashem because his essence is bound to the unified communal existence of the Jewish people, right? And we were so close at the time, but also like a couple who is so close at the time of their chuppah by their wedding, right? And then after time, maybe after many years of marriage, they could find themselves getting into silly, petty arguments, right? And they stopped focusing on the good, on what they love about each other and their unity, and they start focusing on our differences. And that's what happened to Klal Yisrael. We were once ki'ish achad b'lev achad, but we started focusing on our differences. You know, there was a quote that Golda Meir used to say, that peace will come when the Arabs will love their children more than they hate us. But I've also heard that we can only win the Arabs when we love each other as much as they hate us, right? In Israel, there's this positive, incredible transformation happening. People are there for each other. And we need to transform in that way here too. So Hashem doesn't have to bring it even closer, chas v'shalom. I know that I'm preaching to the choir, but we all need your help to bring that change here, to realize that there's no more us and them, right? They weren't differentiating between the religious, the not religious, Dati, Haredi, Mizrahi, all the labels didn't matter to them. They didn't look at any of that. Neither did Hitler. All they cared is that we're a Jew, and that's really all that matters. And it's a time when we have to realize we are all one, and Hashem will take care of us as children when we realize that we are all brothers and sisters. So how do we do this? In just a few moments. First, we have to realize that the people the closest in our lives is where we begin practicing this midah of nosei ba'olam chaveru, feeling their pain, feeling their suffering. Just at home, we don't have to necessarily jump on a plane and go to Israel, and it may not be possible or practical for many of us, but it may be possible for us in our own home, in the comfort and privacy in the four doors of our own home, to start to enter the shoes and into the emotional existence of what it's like for our children, our brothers and sisters. What's it like to be a teenager, and what's it like to have hormones going up and down, or what's it like to be going through, to be just not feeling well. Maybe it's not even all the people in Israel. Maybe that's too far for us. But put ourselves in another person's shoes. How does it feel to be not well, to lose a parent? How is this person feeling during the first day on their job? What is it like to move into a new neighborhood? The cashier in the supermarket, they have a tough job. What does it be like? What is he going through? We all have the ability to empathize and feel what another person is feeling. We just have to put our minds to it. Feeling another person's pain, even if you don't have anything actually to resolve it, can help them immeasurably. By sharing their burden, you are lightening their load. When people are understood and supported by others, they no longer feel alone. This is why we are not supposed to initiate conversation when performing the mitzvah of Nicham Avelim or visiting a mourner during Shiva. The greatest act we can do is just sitting there quietly, sharing the mourner's pain. It makes his burden a little less heavy to know that we're just feeling with him, right? We have the same, applies to the mitzvah of Bikor Cholim. When we're visiting the sick person, just your visit lifts their spirits and can make him feel better, even physically. That's why we can't be yotzei the mitzvah of Bikor Cholim by sending a text message or doing it virtually, right? The mitzvah is to be there in their presence and to feel what it's like to be going through what they're going through. To feel what it's like to experience the loss that they're going through. Just by sending the time and showing your concern, you've lightened their burden. You show them, I'm here for you. I get you. I know it. I understand that it's painful. Oh no, Kaylee, I'm coming up in just a few minutes, okay? If you can also provide tangible assistance, making dinner for somebody or babysitting their kids, that's also great. But the first step is just to empathize and feel their pain, feel where they're coming from. Okay, just a minute, Kaylee. After, okay? Sorry, my daughter's waiting for me, so I'm gonna just wrap up here. But what does this look like? Even if we can't necessarily do something, it looks like what you see, what the families are doing in Eretz Yisrael, the families who really are experiencing pain, shows us how we should treat our own families. They're going, I think this was from just an Erev Shabbos or on Thursday. The families of the hostages went to Gaza, and they took like 100 or something microphones or speakerphones and just called out on top of their lungs, called out the names of their children. We love you. We're here for you. My son, my daughter, right? We're looking out for you. We're going to come and get you. Don't be afraid. We're watching out for you. Don't worry. We haven't forgotten about you, right? That's what it looks like when you feel their pain. You just do whatever you can, even if you're not even sure if it's going to make a difference. You know what else it looks like? It looks like the story of Iris Chaim. I'm sure you've heard the story, but when Iris Chaim sent a message to the person who accidentally killed her son because he was trying to protect Klal Yisrael. And she sent a message saying, "This is Iris Chaim. I am Yotam's mother. I wanted to tell you that I love you very much. And I hug you here from afar. I know that everything that happened is absolutely not your fault. And nobody's fault except that of Hamas. I ask you to look after yourself and to think all the time that you were doing the best thing in the world, the best thing that could happen, that could help us, because all of the people in Israel and all of us need you healthy. And don't hesitate for a second. If you see a terrorist, don't think that you killed the hostage deliberately. You need to look after yourself because that's the only way you can protect us, right?" She invited the soldiers to visit her and meet with her in person. At the first opportunity, you are invited to come to us. Anyone who's interested, we want to see you with our own eyes, hug you, and tell you that what you did, as painful and sad as it is, it was apparently the right thing to do in that moment. None of you are judging you or getting angry. Not me, not my husband, not my daughter Noya, and not Yotam. May his memory be blessed, and not Tuval, Yotam's brother. We love you very much, and that is all. And she invited him to her home to give him a hug. But she understood what it feels like, the pain, the shame, the embarrassment that he would have felt after doing something so painful. And when he did was in the right thing in the moment. That's no seba olam chavero. That's feeling another person's pain, even at the expense of our own. When you look in our history, we had such incredible role models who showed us what this was like. We had role models like Yosef Atzadik, who wasn't with his wife the entire time that his brothers were going through a famine. We have role models like Moshe Rabbeinu, who was in the royalty of the powerless, and he had nothing to gain and every single thing to lose. But it says, "Vayarbas avlosam," he saw them in their pain, he saw them in their suffering. Nasan eina v'libo lios meitzar aleim, he allowed himself to be aroused to feel their pain. And he didn't have to do anything, but that's what makes a leader. And that's what makes somebody great. When we can give our heart and to feel what they're experiencing. And I want to end off with a medrash in Megillas Rus. I actually saw this in the women's siddur. If any of you have this, in the beginning of Megillas Rus, or at the end actually, it says, there's a well-known medrash with a message that goes unnoticed. The medrash speaks of Boaz, who was kind to Ruth and instructed his farmers to make sure that she was able to gather enough gleanings to feed herself. He felt bad for her. He was no ba'olam chavero. But it says, had Boaz only known that HaKadosh Baruch Hu would cause to be written about him in the book of Rus, he would have given her so that she would be satisfied and much was left over. If he would have known, he would have fed her calves to be fattened. The message, of course, applies to everyone. If all people realize that their actions matter, we would behave differently. Even when we are doing the right thing, we wouldn't be satisfied with a minimum, even if it was nicely embellished. We would perform good deeds with a zeal that we would normally reserve only for the most monumentous times in our life. And the Medrash concludes, right? In olden times, a person would perform a good deed, and a prophet might record it. It might be written down in Nevi'im and in Tanakh. You would hear stories of the people who did amazing things and were the heroes of their day. But who records a person's good deeds now? Does it really make a difference? If I feel a twinge in my heart, is that what I'm supposed to do? Does anybody notice? Does Hashem really care? But who records the good deeds now? Medrash tells us it's the prophet Eliyahu and the Melech HaMashiach will record them. And HaKadosh Baruch Hu, the Holy One, blessed is He, will seal what they have written. Ros Rabbah, Parak Beis Pasuk Vav. Hashem Himself is the one who's going to seal on our. Look at our good deeds. Look at our Maisim Tovim. Look at the twinge in our heart. And it says that when we feel that pain in our heart, it's not a trick, and it's not a miracle that sometimes people will daven very hard and they'll go to a big tzaddik, and the tzaddik will daven for them, and the person is healed. It's not that the tzaddik has miraculous powers. It's that when somebody who Hashem loves so much, Hashem sees that they're suffering, Hashem wants to alleviate that suffering and wants to take away their pain and doesn't want them to be in such a level of distress. So he because He cares about them so much, He alleviates their suffering just because of because of his abundant love for that person. And the same is true over here. Hashem, when he sees how much we love each other, and he sees the twinge in our heart, and he sees that we're genuinely when we're fulfilling the mitzvah, v'ahavta l'recha kamocha, and when we're nosei ba'olam chaveiro, when we feel each other's pain, and it's Hashem says, I can't let them suffer anymore. It's too much, and he sees every single twinge in our heart, and Hashem says, I see, it's time to bring Mashiach, and I don't have to make them become one, because they already are. And that's what I want to share with you, just about becoming one. I don't have the secret for how we're going to win this war, but I do know that when we become one, Hashem treats us like his children, and we should take all the passion, all the feelings that we feel in our heart, and put them as a collective group, all the tears that we cry, all the tefillos that we say, and not necessarily have to say more, not necessarily have to do more chesed or say more tehillim, but to just go to a deeper place in our heart. And from that much deeper place in our heart, connect with Hashem. Hattie, could you bring Binyamin up the stairs? I'm just finishing this minute. He's down here. I'm sorry. I hear my baby crying, so it's hard for me too. But from that place in our heart, Hashem should hear our tefillos. And maybe if we could just set aside a little place, maybe it's taking 5 minutes sometime. Maybe it's taking 5 minutes sometime during the week, or sometime during our day, or maybe it's even 2 minutes by candlelighting, and just to allow ourselves. When it's an opportunity for us to really think, to reflect on the anguish of people who lack happiness that we take for granted when we celebrate Shabbos with our families, such as couples with infertility, singles yearning for a shidduch, widows, divorcees and their children. Visualize the sorrow of the Jewish wife who has been struggling to have children for years as she lights Shabbos candles. And she says, grant me the merit to raise children and grandchildren who love Hashem, who illuminate the world. Please hear my tefillos, feel the sadness in the hearts of children who can't have both parents at their Shabbos table because of chas v'shalom, the death of a parent or a divorce, how they long to reclaim their previous happy times, right? After transplanting yourself into the situation for a moment, beseech Hashem to bring happier times to these people, to fill in the void in their lives and bless their Shabbos table with the happiness they desperately seek. These prayers that come from our heart filled with empathy will open a heavenly window and elicit Hashem's mercy for the people in need. We are all children of Mama Rachel, and embracing her legacy of opening Hashem's gate in our spiritual genes. Okay, and I don't want to take more time. Thank you so much for having us here, and I'm sure that the schus of all the collective tefillos of all the holy, beautiful women coming together here each morning, Hashem is holding those precious tefillos and those precious tears, and I'm sure soon He will say we can't do it anymore, and with that passion and feeling in our heart, Hashem will bring Mashiach and bring all the children, the soldiers, the hostages, the Kadoshim back home.
Matti, I just want to tell you that was really just so beautiful and so gorgeous. But I want to tell Amen. But I want to tell you something else. You're really your depth of your heart, neshama, is a lesson. But the fact that you came on this morning with all your children to teach us is exactly putting yourself, standing in that place of exactly what you're saying to us, right? You're teaching us to show up. That's what you taught us this morning, to show up, right? You showed up in the most difficult of circumstances, and you're teaching us to show up. So you're really precious. You're beyond your years. I don't know how old you are, but you're beyond your years, and your empathy and your heart and your caring. You know, if we all would feel the way you feel and be able to stand in the place of another Jew, mamish, there wouldn't be a hungry Jew, there wouldn't be a suffering Jew, there wouldn't be anything, because we would feel all the time that we have to fill. You would feel it so much that it would be like feeling for our own. So I got to tell you, this was just remarkable. You're just remarkable. And the students you teach and the university kids and whatever you're doing, they are so lucky, mamish, to have you. And now I understand when I look at your bio and I see all the things that you're accomplishing and that which is remarkable, which always, everybody knows on this group that I'm always astounded by the Jewish woman. Like, I can cry thinking about the greatness. And when you look at your bio, now I understand. Listening to you, I understand how you accomplished all this, because you're unbelievable. You're really mamish unbelievable. And Hashem should give you koyach to continue and to not just teach, but I know that your davening must be, your tefillahs, standing in the place of others, is unbelievable. Thank you, really, Matti. Thank you so much. It was remarkable, beautiful.
Thank you, Naomi. Thank you so much for giving me this opportunity. Wish I could do more.
It's unbelievable. I'm telling you. Hashem's looking down and going, I have to bring Mashiach. I just want you to know that.
I just wanted the lecturer to thank her and tell her a story I heard from a 10-year-old.
I know, but well, let's see if Matti has to get off, and then we can.
Okay.
Matti, do you have to go? Do you
I'm
have to
okay.
go?
I'm okay now. My husband just took my kids upstairs. Sorry, I came out of my
Okay,
locked
go
room.
ahead, Charlene.
So, Matti, I want to first thank you. It's really from your heart to my heart, open, totally open. But I want to tell you what happened. Like 12 years ago, there was a little girl that came, she's granddaughter of my friend. She came to see me at the pool, she had a good time, everything. And then I'm sitting there and asking her, how are you doing? And she said, I have to tell you something. And she goes, we are all connected. And she says, imagine you have a thread going from your heart connected to my heart. It's a 10-year-old. This is Neviah, you know. You don't have Neviah, but she taught me a lesson years ago about the connection of every heart in the whole universe. I just want to share that with you and to thank you.
Thank you, Charlene.
Beautiful,
It's an
beautiful.
honor to meet you.
Thank you. Okay, we have to finish off, I think, with the tefillahs before everybody else gets off. Everybody's getting off. The tefillahs for the hostages.
Thanks,
Matti, thank you
Matti.
so much. Thank you.
I
It was
apologize if I
amazing.
went over time.
Amazing. No, you did not go overtime. You were exquisite, amazing. There's no such thing as overtime. It's exactly the way Hashem wanted it to be. And we can't thank you enough, really. Baruch Hashem.
Exactly.
Okay. Judith, you want to finish us off with the...
Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you,
Okay.
Matti. Amazing.
Amazing, amazing. ריבונו של עולם.